Hey everyone, Aladdin's Castle here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go over another rogue deck. The USNA National Championships, the Continentals, are this week. By the time that you're watching this, it's probably going to be the week of Continentals. It is going to be hosted in Anaheim, California on the weekend of January 10th through the 12th. And we are trying to figure out what decks we're going to play. So the last couple uploads I've had covered the meta decks, and the most recent episode covered the Ruby Steel Lorgain Lordrain deck. So I'm going to bring you guys one more deck that you could possibly try out if you guys are going there for maybe even like the side events or even like the set champs that are coming up. But it's mostly decks that are kind of like rogue decks that kind of catch people off guard. So for those who do not know, rogue decks are basically non-meta, kind of homebrew decks that have kind of like a unique build to it. So there's chances are that you're going to be running some card choices and tech cards that your opponent might not be prepared for because they're already preparing for other decks in the meta, and you could really steal some games because they're not prepared for that strategy. So it's mostly there to catch them off guard. Today I'm going to be talking about Emerald Steel, but not the traditional package of discard. It's going to be a little bit more curve based, kind of more tempo based, and it's something that I think, especially in game one, your opponent is not going to be prepared for. They're not going to be mulliganing right or even having their lines of play correctly. So a couple of reasons why we're playing the Emerald Steel kind of curve deck is because the deck I think is naturally great against aggro. You have cards like Calhoun that could kind of stop your opponent from being aggressive. You could have stuff like Morph that could morph into like Tinkerbell that could also prevent a lot of the aggressive decks like green purple or amber steel aggro from just going wide. So you have some big characters that could stop the aggressive decks, and you could always tech in certain cards that are really powerful, like grab your swords, if you feel like that's the kind of meta that you'll be expecting. Second, I think it's an overall well-rounded deck. It has a little bit of everything. It has removal, has draw power, has some combos, has big characters with strong attacks, so you kind of have a little bit of everything to combat the meta. So I think it's a little bit more balanced deck. It's not as oppressive, I think, compared to like the hand discard variant, but it's kind of there to kind of maneuver against the meta, which is very heavily aggro, but still have a chance to go against some of the slower decks like red-blue. And then also, again, like the last deck, the surprise factor. This is a deck that people aren't expecting to be played in high numbers, I think, because of how it dropped off in the meta. There's just too many fast things that are going on. A lot of targets for Diablo and Genie for purple decks. So there's a lot of removal that's going on against specifically Diablo, because we've been already in a couple formats already with that card. But being able to play this, there's a surprise factor of playing stuff like Morph. Morph, I think, also prevents people from overcommitting their board, because they might shift into something crazy. You might shift into something hard to get rid of, like a beast on turn 3. So it just really plays into like the whole surprise factor of what am I going to play next, because it's not a traditional discard deck. Alright, so let's go ahead and start off with the deck profile. We're going to start off with 4 Robin Hoods. Robin Hood has a shift target. He's a good character, just 2/2, solid stats. You like to see him on turn 1 so that you could shift them on turn 3, depending on like the board state. Next, I ran 2 Happy. Happy is there because it is evasive during your turn, so you could take out certain characters in combination with a lot of your other removal cards like Fire the Cannons or Strength, so you could kind of take out those other great evasive cards like Genies or other Tinkerbells that are Amethyst. Next, 2 Fire the Cannons. Fire the Cannons is a great early game card to use if you're on the draw, so it helps you catch up outside of like cards like Calhoun. If your opponent's playing something hyper aggro, like maybe Amber Steel with Daisies and Piglets, at least this card can take out like the Piglets or the Flynn Riders, a lot of the cards that have 2 willpower as well. Onto the 2 cost cards, I'm running 4 Smees. Smee is one of the best cards in the game. I mentioned in every steel deck profile, 3/3 quest for 2, very strong either on the play or the draw. He can get rid of anything really early game. Then I'm running 4 Calhouns. Calhoun is another amazing card from Azurite Sea. She is a 3/2, resists with +1, and then during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you gain 2 lore. So not only are you clearing board, but you're also gaining lore at the same time. A lot of people don't like to turn cards sideways once Calhoun's on the board until they have something that's favorable to trade. So she really helps against those really aggressive starts. Another great 2-cost card, Ursula. Ursula against certain steel matchups with the songs, against Be Prepared, against just a lot of like heavy song package builds. Ursula just is one of the best cards also, so you got to run her. Your opponent always has to think about keeping certain cards because Ursula exists. The 2-drop is going to be very heavy because sometimes you don't want to drop a certain 2-drop on turn 2. You want to drop it maybe later, like a turn later or something like that, so that it could potentially survive. But you have Morph. Morph I like because there's a couple different shift targets that you could play with him, and you could just make your opponent think twice about who you're going to shift into. So usually they'll have like their targeted removal on Morph, which is okay. You might be able to have a couple other cards that you want to survive, like a Robin Hood and a Morph, and then you're just going to be shifting either on turn 3, or they're going to get rid of Morph and you're going to get rid of the Morph target anyway. So he's like a good bait target as well to kind of play some mind games on your opponent. Maybe you might not even have a shift target, but you just play it so that he could be targeted by your opponent's removal. Next, Go-Go, because Go-Go is into the mix. She could just steal lore as well. You have a couple targets in here that could trade really well with 3 strength, 4 strength, and depending on the right matchup, like a Maui or a Hiram, you could just tap her for the extra 2 ink and then gain lore equal to the damage on that character. Go-Go has to be respected because if you don't play around her, you could really get caught off guard.
Put some respect on my name. You understand me?
And the final 2-cost characters in here is Doc. Doc, you could bump him up 3 or 4 depending what you feel like. But Doc I like a lot because you could refill your hand. He's one of the really solid cards to kind of refill your hand if it gets empty. When you play this character, you may discard your hand to draw 2 cards. So sometimes there's like an uninkable in your hand, you want to get rid of it, or you already have like 1 or 2 cards, so you could kind of just reset your hand by drawing back 2. Onto the 3-cost cards over here. I'm running 4 Hercules because this synergizes with a certain card in this deck, which you'll see in a little bit. But it also has Bodyguard, and it has a 3/3 stat line, so it could protect against like your Smees, your Calhouns, your Robin Hoods, your Morphs, all of that stuff. So they're gonna have to crash into Hercules if they want to. 2 Pete's. Pete's amazing. Pete is against like any crazy action deck. Really counters a lot of like the brawls, the song, Amber Steel song package. Be Prepared. So he's really good at any point in the game, and because you have access to Ursula, you kind of telegraph their hand and play this at a certain point in the game. So Ursula with Pete is pretty crazy because Ursula can only target songs, whereas Pete stops actions for the turn. So it's a great combination together. Then I'm playing Strength. Strength has a potential to take out 3 willpower, 4 willpower characters. You just deal damage equal to the amount of characters you have in play. This pairs up well with like Go-Go as well. You can just damage somebody's character and then Go-Go, or like even sing it with Strength. So it's really, really strong. I don't run any 4 costs. You could run like Pluto and stuff. Pluto's a great turn 4 play if you want more protection. But the main closer in this deck is Meg. Meg is a card from set 4. She's a 4/4, quest for 2, has ward, and she says whenever you play a character named Hercules, you may ready this character. So I play the Bodyguard Hercules as well as the 6-cost shift target. So she's able to quest, and then when you play Hercules, you could ready her and quest again. So it doesn't have one of those weird kind of stipulations where you can't quest for the turn or you can't challenge. This one says you could just ready her and she could keep questing. What's a cool play is that on turn 6, if you make it there, depending on the matchup, you could play her on turn 6. Then turn 7 with 7 ink, you could quest with Meg, play the 3-drop Hercules Bodyguard to ready her, and then quest with her again. And then also with the remaining 4 ink, you could shift the same turn over that Hercules and ready her up, and then quest again too. So very cool. Like that could really end the game, especially on the lore counts if you're keeping up with the lore, especially with Smees and Calhouns and stuff. You could get that much closer to the 20 lore count. All right, on to more of the 5 cost cards. Robin Hood. You ready to run the 1-drop? So shifts into turn 3. Really good against the steel mirrors, hard to get rid of, and it draws a card and gains lore too as well, depending on the situation. Then I am also running 4 Sad Boy Beast. Sad Boy Beast is an amazing card because you're running Morph. So if you're on the play, you could just have a crazy opening hand with just like 1-drop, 2-drop Smee or Calhoun. And then, or Morph actually, and then shift onto turn 3 with Beast and start drawing cards. And if your opponent doesn't have any solid way to get this out early, like an Ice Block and Brawl or something like that, or any combination to ramp up, then Beast will grab you a couple draw power. Next, I am running 4 Whole New Worlds. I might cut this down to 3 depending. I might just do 3 docks, but Whole New World is a way to help refill your hand. It's also there to for like Meg to be like a free singer. Sing with Meg, and then if you drop a Hercules, you could restand and then quest with her again, which is nice. You get some good value out of that singing combination. But it also helps you refill your hand, which you do need in certain situations. Not against every deck, but it could win you some games because it could find you the pieces that you need. Then I run the 6-drop Hercules. Hercules is a shift target for 4. Also has resist +2, so again, really strong against those steel matchups. Doesn't get hit by Medusa. 6 strength could take out so many things. Could take out a Hiram, it could take out Maui's, it could take out a lot of locations depending how much health they have. He's just a big threat, so a lot of people have to watch out for the shift line, and it combines with Meg. And then the final 2 steel cards that I have in this version is Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell can hurt a lot of the aggro decks, green, purple, amber, steel. If you're able to shift turn 4 with Morph, she just wrecks a lot of those decks, specifically those decks. So she's really strong. I like her in that kind of aspect, and the threat of Tinkerbell is always there to kind of remove the board. But yeah, that is pretty much the deck. I think I run 12 uninkables, so it's not the worst. You also have Doc that could also discard your hand if you see too many uninkables, if you see too many Whole New Worlds early on, which can happen. Just like in any Amber Steel build, you could always play Doc to get rid of your hand. Bad matchups, I think the hardest counter really is like the Ruby decks, because they play stuff like Brawl, and they even play stuff like Medusa that could get rid of a lot of your really good top-end cards like Robin Hoods and Beasts. And then outside of that, I think it has a fair matchup against a lot of things. But it's still like a deck that's not as powerful as the traditional discard build. But it's definitely something to try and catch people off guard. So, I mean, it's just they might see your color combination game 1 and try to make certain play lines versus like a discard strategy like the traditional build. But you're going a different route, so you could really catch them off guard. And it has a really good curve. Like if you curve with Robin Hood, Smee, or Calhoun, then on turn 3 you shift Hood or Morph with Beast or whoever. I think you could really set up a really powerful opening, and then you finish off the game with like something like Meg to quest a few times late game while still having access to powerful steel songs and the removal. I think it has an overall really good balanced strategy. So yeah, let me know if you guys try this out. I know there's one other local who does play this in the Chicagoland area. His name is RJ, so shout outs to RJ for being the local homebrew who also experimented a lot with this deck. But I'm sure a lot of people have tried this out, and especially the Meg package. I think it's really cool and unique. I like how this flavor text really has a strategy where you could build around and make it work, especially with the wards. So she has a lot of protection, and then you combine it with some of like the bodyguards and stuff, which you could fully customize this build to have a bunch of bodyguards to protect Meg, and just go all out with like Meg and then the 2-drop Hercules and stuff. So you could really customize this deck to your liking. But I try to cater it to be a little bit more on the competitive side to kind of fight off a lot of the decks out there. And I hope you guys enjoy it, and we will see you in the next video. Make sure you guys are subscribed. I got a lot of things coming up for the Continentals, which is going to be this Friday. Yeah, I guess by the time of this video, it's going to be this Friday for the weekend. So I got a lot of collaborations going on, hopefully with other content creators. And the big Continentals is coming up in Anaheim, and we'll see from there. But yeah, make sure you guys subscribe. I am doing the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. I'll be handing out 2 troves as well as the Chapter 1 target bundle. And let's make it there. So see you guys in the next video. Peace out.